Keanu Reeves is kicked out of a taxi by the driver, unaware of who he truly is. A simple mistake leads to an unforgettable encounter that will change everything. Keanu had just wrapped up a long meeting and was feeling drained. He flagged down a taxi, hoping for a quiet ride home. As he climbed into the car, he noticed the driver seemed a bit tense. They exchanged a few casual words, with Keanu mentioning how crazy his day had been. "I hope this company treats you well," Keanu said, thinking about the taxi service, but the driver took it the wrong way. The driver, already stressed from his own problems, thought Keanu was complaining about the ride. Keanu, in his usual laid-back style, made a small comment about how the cab could have been more comfortable. "This seat could use a little more cushion," he said, half-joking. But the driver misinterpreted it as criticism and assumed Keanu was just being a difficult passenger. The driver's patience wore thin. He was tired and frustrated, dealing with his own struggles, and Keanu's calm demeanor seemed like another problem he didn't need. "Look, just get out of the car if you're going to complain," the driver snapped, not realizing who he was speaking to. Keanu, caught off guard but unfazed, quietly got out of the taxi. The driver, still oblivious, watched him walk away, thinking it was just another difficult passenger. It wasn't until later, when he saw a news update on his phone, that he realized the man he'd kicked out was none other than Keanu Reeves, the owner of the very taxi company he worked for. Keanu stepped out of the taxi without a fuss. He thanked the driver politely, who still had no clue who he was. "Thanks, man. Take care," Keanu said, then closed the door behind him. The driver, still irritated, watched him walk off but didn't think much of it. A few minutes later, the driver's phone buzzed. It was a notification from a major news outlet. "Keanu Reeves is the new owner of the taxi company." The words hit him like a punch. His eyes widened as he read the headline again. The man he'd just kicked out was none other than Keanu Reeves, the very same Keanu who now owned the entire taxi company he worked for. The driver's heart dropped. His face turned pale with shock. He couldn't believe what he had just done. In his frustration, he hadn't even recognized one of the most famous actors in the world, let alone the new boss. Panic set in as he quickly grabbed his phone to try and track Keanu down. But by the time he stepped out of the taxi, Keanu was already gone, swallowed up by the busy city streets. The driver stood there, feeling a heavy weight of regret and embarrassment. He had no idea how to fix what he had just done. The driver couldn't shake off the feeling of embarrassment. As he sat in his taxi, his mind kept replaying the moment when he had kicked Keanu out. He felt guilty for letting his frustration get the best of him. The whole day had been a struggle, tight schedules, low tips, and pressure to make ends meet. His stress had clouded his judgment, and now he couldn't stop thinking about how he had treated Keanu, who was probably just another tired person trying to get home. The driver kept asking himself, "Why didn't I just calm down?" Meanwhile, Keanu was walking through the city, feeling the weight of his own internal conflict. Even though he had fame, money, and success, something didn't feel right. He had spent so many years in the spotlight, but the fame often left him feeling isolated and disconnected. People always treated him like a celebrity, but he wondered if anyone saw him as a real person. The brief encounter with the driver, though unintentional, made him feel a bit more grounded. He had felt like just another person, not someone to be admired or adored. But now, after the driver's reaction, Keanu couldn't help but question if people ever saw him beyond the movies and fame. In that moment, Keanu realized that his loneliness wasn't just about being alone. It was about not being seen for who he truly was. Both men, though from different worlds, were dealing with feelings of frustration and isolation, struggling to find genuine connections. After hours of regret and guilt, the taxi driver couldn't let it go. He knew he had to find Keanu and apologize. It wasn't just about the mistake, it was about making things right. The news about Keanu being the new owner of the taxi company only made him feel worse, and he couldn't stand the thought of not owning up to his actions. He searched the city, asking around at cafes and shops, hoping to spot Keanu. Finally, he found him sitting alone at a small local cafe. Keanu was sitting quietly by the window, sipping a coffee, lost in thought. The driver's heart raced as he walked over. Keanu didn't seem surprised to see him, but there was no sign of anger, just a calm look in his eyes. "Keanu," the driver said nervously. I owe you an apology. I didn't realize who you were, and I treated you horribly. I was frustrated, and it was wrong of me." Keanu looked up at him and nodded slowly. For a moment he didn't speak. Then, in a surprisingly soft voice, he said, "I get it. I've had days where everything just builds up and you lash out. I've been there." The driver looked at him, unsure how to respond. But Keanu continued, "But you know, Sometimes I wish people didn't see me as just Keanu Reeves. I'm more than that, more than the guy in the movies. Sometimes I just want to be treated like a normal person. Like I'm not always on display. The driver was taken aback by the honesty in Keanu's words. He expected Keanu to be upset, maybe even angry, but instead Keanu seemed calm, even understanding. There was something deeper in his words, a vulnerability that surprised the driver. Keanu took a deep breath and continued, "It's hard sometimes. Everyone sees the fame, but they don't see the loneliness that comes with it. People don't really know the real me. I feel like I'm always performing, always expected to be on. It's exhausting." The driver felt a sudden wave of empathy. He had no idea what it was like to live in Keanu's shoes, but he understood what it felt like to be trapped by expectations. The driver, for the first time, shared some of his own struggles. "I get that," he said. "I've been working this job for years. Long hours, low pay, and no real connection with anyone. I'm always rushing, always trying to keep up. I guess I feel like I'm invisible sometimes too." Keanu listened intently, nodding. There was a real connection in the air now, something deeper than the surface-level apology. "We're not so different, you and me," Keanu said. "We both just want to be seen for who we really are, not what people expect us to be." The driver looked at Keanu, seeing him in a new light. He wasn't just a famous actor. He was a person who understood struggles, who felt disconnected from the world in his own way. The driver felt a weight lift off his shoulders, knowing that he wasn't alone in feeling the way he did. Keanu had shown him that even those who seemed out of reach had their own battles. They both sat there for a while, not needing to say anything more. The silence between them was comfortable now, filled with understanding. As they parted ways, the driver knew that he had learned something important, not just about Keanu but about life and the people around him. Sometimes we all just need to be seen for who we really are. Keanu looked at the driver and smiled gently. "You don't have to apologize anymore," he said. "I get it. We all have our bad days and I'm not angry. Honestly, it's just a part of life. We're all just trying to make it through." The driver felt a huge weight lift off his chest. He had been so worried about Keanu's reaction, but now, hearing those words, he realized how much he had overthought the situation. He had expected anger, maybe even a punishment, but instead, Keanu was offering him something much more valuable: understanding and forgiveness. Keanu paused for a moment, then added, "You know, you've been working hard and I can see that. How about this? If you're ever looking for a job or need a break from driving, I could help you out. My company is growing and I'm always looking for good people who appreciate hard work." The driver blinked, surprised. He never expected anything like that from Keanu. In his mind, Keanu was just another famous person with a life so far removed from his own struggles. But now, Keanu was offering a real opportunity, a chance for something better. "Really?" the driver asked, almost not believing it. Keanu nodded. "Yeah, really," he said with a smile. "Sometimes we all need a little help, right?" The driver was speechless, overwhelmed by the kindness Keanu had shown. "Thank you," he said quietly, almost unable to express how much this meant to him. "I don't even know what to say. I'll work hard for you. I swear." Keanu placed a hand on his shoulder, giving him a reassuring squeeze. "No need to swear," Keanu said. "I believe you." As they parted ways, the driver felt a newfound sense of hope. He had spent so long feeling stuck, caught up in his own frustrations. But this moment, this unexpected kindness from someone he had wronged, changed his perspective. He understood now how important it was to not judge people based on assumptions or first impressions. Everyone had their struggles, and sometimes, a simple act of kindness could make a world of difference. Keanu, too, walked away from the conversation with a sense of peace. Despite the challenges he faced in his own life, he realized that there was something deeply rewarding about connecting with someone in a real way, beyond the fame and the spotlight. He had seen the driver for who he truly was, not just as a taxi driver but as someone who was working hard to get by just like anyone else. Keanu's struggles were still there, but now he felt a little less alone. Sometimes, the most meaningful connections came from the most unexpected places. In that brief conversation with the driver, he had found a reminder that everyone had their own story, and every person deserved to be seen, heard, and treated with kindness. As they both walked their separate paths, they carried with them the knowledge that even in the busiest, most chaotic moments of life, there was always room for understanding and compassion. And sometimes that was enough to make all the difference. The story closes with the driver driving through the quiet streets, his mind still processing the unexpected encounter. As he glances into the rearview mirror, a soft smile spreads across his face. For the first time in a long while, he feels a sense of peace and hope. He's no longer burdened by frustration, understanding now that everyone, no matter their background, has their own battles. The camera lingers on his face for a moment, capturing the warmth in his expression. With a deep breath, he drives forward, knowing that kindness and understanding can bridge even the widest gaps.